everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to Shields Live again this Wednesday. Very hot, muggy day out. So, again, what better day to be hanging out with us? Been on a little hiatus the last couple of weeks, but I'm happy to be back. Today, Jan is going to talk to you about we're going to talk about scan and cut maintenance, cleaning mats, checking blades, things like that. Yeah, again, we could encourage if you have anything that you want us to work on or do in the future, don't hesitate. Drop us a note either on our page here, email, whatever it may be. Jan also wanted to remind everybody that we are still having our Christmas in July sale. Our floor models are all marked down, as well as all in-stock accessories are 30% off. So that's going on till Friday. So you still got a couple more days to get in. It is an in-store sale only, so you do have to come see us, which, we all want to see each other. So anyway, thanks again for joining us, and I will kick it over to Jan and see you in a little bit. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. Yep. Careful. I have a curly cord here on the floor. We don't want to knock everything off on the floor, so... Okay, so how is everybody today? Second here, I'm going to turn off the little banner, and I'm going to go to the comments. So hopefully, everybody's starting to find us here. Second. Okay, then I'm going to switch the camera. So we're going to talk about the scan and cut and some maintenance on the scan and cut. So you do need to maintain your scan and cut and your mats and your blades. And there's something on the scan and cut that I'm going to show you too. So give me just a second here. And switch over everything. There we go. Okay, hopefully you can still hear me all right. Okay. So the first thing I want to talk a little bit about is maintenance. So we all want our blades to last as long as possible and our mats and everything. And mats can be cleaned. So, hi, everybody. People are finding us. Hello. So, mats can be cleaned and they can also be restuck. So I have a device that I use to restick my mats to keep them clean, and keeping them clean helps them stay sticky also. So I'm going to start with some of those things, but I want to start with the blades. So, and we'll talk a little bit about both the older machines and the newer machines, because you can do this with all of the machines, obviously. So, but the blades, what happens very often with blades is that you'll get something stuck in the blade and down in the holder part of the blade, and then the machine won't cut correctly. And it can happen with the old blades. This is the old standard blade from, like the CM series machines. And then this is one of the auto blades. So it's kind of the same deal with both of them. So I do try to keep my blades really clean. And especially if you're cutting paper or vinyls, have a tendency to get them messy. So what I do to clean my blade, and I'm going to show you, this is the auto blade. I'm going to unscrew this cap. So this cap comes off. Okay. The cap comes off, and I don't have any internet. Oh, there it comes back on again. We're having some internet issues, so we're trying to decide what the problem is. So hopefully we'll be able to get through this okay. I have a cord on my computer, but we're still having a little problem. So so if I come in and out a little bit, bear with me and stick with me. We'll get through it. So, okay. So what I did is I removed the top off this blade. So this is the auto blade, for the DX machines. Okay. And then I unscrewed it, and there's a little spring. So just be careful. Don't lose your little spring. And I'm just going to carefully remove the blade. Now the blade is very sharp, so just be careful. And what I'm looking for with cleaning these is that there's nothing on the tips of my blades. Sometimes I'll put my glasses on and really inspect the tip of the blade, but you don't want any like paper little fragments or vinyl fragments. So I've just got my little dusting brush from my sewing machine, and I use that and clean off the blade part just to make sure there's nothing stuck. Because if there's something stuck on there, and you often will open this up and see something stuck on it, then it won't cut correctly because it won't let the blade, you know, like go down into the paper or your vinyl or whatever. Okay. So keep these clean. So I use my little brush to do this. And then the other thing you want to do is you want to look down inside this holder. Okay. And make sure that there's nothing. Can you see the little hole where the blade goes through down there? So you want to make sure there's nothing obstructing that hole, because sometimes then the blade doesn't go down through the hole. So I'll just clean that out with my little brush, or sometimes I'll take the little end, you know, there's a little point end on the end to make sure there's nothing stuck in that little hole. Okay. But it's important to inspect your blades regularly. Now with these then, they're kind of magnetized. So the blade goes back into the blade holder like this, and it just kind of drops down. You can kind of hear it. You probably could kind of hear it snap into place. And then you put the lid back on and screw it down as tight as it goes. Okay. So that one, you don't, that's all you have to do with that blade. Okay. So take them apart. Especially if you notice that all of a sudden something's just not quite cutting correctly, or it just doesn't seem like it's cutting all the way through, check to make sure there's nothing stuck in your blade housing or your on your blade. Okay. All right. So then this is these older standard blades. Okay. So these are the ones you have to set yourself. So this one, there's an extra little step to it. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to unscrew the cap so I can get to the blade. This is also how you change them, okay? And then I'm going to look at this blade. So I'm going to pull it out so I can really look at it and make sure. Now, see, I don't know if you could see. Did you see these? This is a used machine that we picked up, and I have not cleaned this one up yet. So did you see these little things drop out of there? So see, that would have been obstructing how the machine was cutting. Did you see the little things on my table here? So I'm going to look at this blade real careful. Hi, Lynn. Hi, Deb. Hi, Marcia. Who else is here? Oh, Margaret's here. So I'm just going to clean this blade up real well. And then these little fragments that dropped out of this blade probably were up inside of here. So I'm looking down in this inside here, and I don't know if you can see it very well. It's kind of dark, but there are quite a few little fragments of paper and vinyl down inside here. So I'm going to give this a really good little scrub down in here. And that would also cause you to have problems with the way it cuts, because the pieces are going to fall down or get stuck around your blade. And sometimes I even take a little canned air and blow, but I think it's all coming out now. I think it looks pretty good. Just a second here. I'm just going to, this one was really dirty. So see all these little things that dropped out of that blade? So see, those look like little pieces of vinyl. And vinyl is usually the culprit because it's sticky too, you know, it's got like an adhesive on it often, and it sticks down inside this casing, and then it gets down around your blade. So see, now that one's all clean. And then I can put this one back together. So this one's going to have an extra step. So we're going to go ahead, and this one, we're going to put the blade back in. It has that little magnet in it. You hear it kind of snap down in there. Okay. And then this one, since we have to set this one, it has numbers on it. This is the way to properly reset your blade. So you want to go ahead and screw this all the way down as tight as it goes, just like we did the other one. Okay, like that. And now if you can see, I don't know if you can see it very well on the camera, but the blade is all the way out right now. Okay, so I've got it tight as it will go. Now I'm going to release the cap and put it back to the number, well, 0. I always call it 0. It's the line where the little papers meet right here, right below the number 1. So when that is resetting it. So now when I go to do like to the number 2, it just barely comes out of the blade holder. Okay. Or number 4 comes out just a little bit more. So you do have to make it tight all the way. So it's as tight as it can go, and the blade's sticking out the end, and then roll it back to the 0 line, or where the stickers meet, and then before you go back. Okay, so I always leave mine there, and then I set it where I want. Now these are like I said, these are the CM blades, but you can use this on your DX model Scan and Cut as well. And I use these, I still use my standard blade quite often. Okay. So that is cleaning your blades. And again, take them apart. Like this one, I hadn't cleaned this machine since we got it in as a trade-in, and so it obviously needed to have the housing, the blade holder cleaned out, and also the blade area. Okay, so there's cleaning the blades. My favorite little tool is that little brush, that comes with your sewing machine. So just get your little sewing machine brush out, and that works real slick. And it has the little tip on the other end. Sometimes I use that if I see something stuck in the end of my end of my blade holder. Okay. All right, so there's our blade cleaning. So do that regularly. If it's something, especially if something seems like it's not right, check your blade holder. Make sure your blade and blade holder are clean. Okay, so now let's talk about cleaning the mats. Second here. I'm going to lay this up here. And I've got a couple of, bring this up just a little bit. I've got a couple, these are the DX mats for the current scanning cuts, but don't let that bother you. You'll do this the same way whether you have a CM model or a DX model. Okay, so this is a fairly, as you can see, not sticky mat. All right, so this one's pretty not sticky, because see, the card carrier sheet doesn't even stick on it. So let's clean it and see if that has anything, if it helps. It may not help. So what I do, especially when my mats are fairly new, I try to keep them clean, and I use baby wipes. Okay, and you want to get, I get the cheap ones like at the dollar store that are alcohol free, and you don't want any aloe on them, so you want them to be pretty plain. And that's the ones I usually buy. You can also take this to your kitchen sink with some very mild detergent, like dish soap. Like I use Ivory. That works too, and you can wipe it off also. But the baby wipes are the fast, quick way, because I can keep them near my machine. And I'm just going to scrub this mat. And often, we cut paper, we cut vinyls, and then there's fabric, and there's going to be little hairs, cat hair, and dog. Look at that. So that was all on that mat. Look how dirty that was. Okay. So if you keep them clean, and I'm going to scrub it really well, then I'm going to set this one aside, and we're going to see if this tackies up a little bit. And it may or may not. For a while, they will tacky back up again really nicely, and you won't have to do anything else to make them sticky again. You can just keep them clean. So I like my baby wipes work the best. That's what I usually use. So look how much stuff I got off that mat. And it didn't look particularly dirty, did it? But look at there. Yeah, look at that. So it may actually tacky up and be nice and tacky again. So we're going to set this one aside. We'll do another one. Okay. And then I'm going to let this one set aside for a second, and then we'll go back. So let's try another one here and see. This one's a low tack mat. So whoops, second here. This is a low tack mat. This is what I do when I get machines in from trade-in. I just, do you scrub it after every cutting you do? Margaret, normally no, but if I get something that's really messy, then yes. Like sometimes when I cut fabric, I scrub it after each one time, because I get like all these hairs and stuff all over. But most of the time they'll stay sticky for at least a while. And then you can clean them and make them sticky again. And like I said, the cleaning will work for a while, but then you have to do something else. And I'm going to show you that other thing that I do to make them sticky again. Whoops, there goes the internet again. So I apologize. We may go on and off today. We're having a few issues here. Okay. So that one's nice, looks pretty clean. See, but look at all the stuff I got off of that one. So they do get dirty. They get pieces of cardstock on them and pieces of paper and vinyl and all that. So there's another one that I've cleaned. Okay, and this has been cut on. You can see that it's been cut on. So I'm going to let these dry for a minute, and let's go on to something else for a minute while those are drying, and then we'll go on to the mat cleaning. Clean clean this off a little bit here. Okay. So there is something else that can happen with your, I like to let the mats dry good, and then I can tell if they're sticky or if they need to be restuck. Okay, so there's something else that can be kind of a problem. And every now and then, this happens sometimes with if something gets stuck down inside your machine. And what happens is that sometimes you'll have like a funny line on your scan. Like if you're scanning something, you'll get a funny line through the middle of it. Or maybe you'll have, like maybe your mat won't load properly. It'll keep saying, well, it doesn't like that mat. Well, there's several things that can cause that, but so can this thing. So I sometimes have to take my machine apart. There's a little thing that you can do. It's very simple. And I'm going to show you both machines. And I use my little soft Norwex microfiber cloth to do this. And I don't like to wet them. I just like to use a dry cloth. Every now and then, if I get something really sticky in my machine, I have to go get just a little bit of like a real mild window cleaner or something, because I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to open this up. Let me get my little blades out of the way here. So let's look at the bottom of our scan and cut. So this is something else that, if you're having it particularly shows up with scanning, is what I've noticed. So you can turn your scan and cut. I unplugged it, and I'm going to turn my scan and cut upside down, very carefully upside down. Okay. And this is that little tray, that pulls out in the back on the DX models. Now the CMs don't have that, but I'll show you that one in a minute. But underneath this little thing here, there's actually the little scanner window. It's like a little scanner area, okay? And that sometimes will get something sticky or dirty on it, or you'll get a piece of vinyl stuck in there. So we need to get down to this to clean it out so that the machine will scan more correctly. And sometimes it even makes mat loading a problem. So to get into that, I'm going to kind of pull this out a little bit. And there's a little lever right here. This is on the CM, the DX models. So I'm going to grab a hold of that. And I'm going to pull this little thing, and this whole little bottom part comes out. Okay, so it's real easy to get out. And I'm going to pull the camera forward. Now, can you see down in here? There's glass in here. This is glass right here. And this is the scanner glass. So what sometimes happens is I'll open this up and I'll see this big piece of vinyl stuck to the glass down there. And of course, obviously that's going to affect how it scans and how it loads mats and everything. So I'm going to take my soft cloth. And like I said, this is one of those little Norwex cloths that I use all the time. And I have a couple small ones I use for this. And I'm just going to go down in here and I'm going to wipe that clear glass area clean. And if I see something stuck in there, I'm going to very carefully go in and I'm going to grab it with my fingers and pull it out so that it's not in there anymore. Now this one's clean because this one's a new machine that's sitting on the floor. So it's nice and clean, but we'll see what happens in that used one because I've got that one to do next. Okay, so I cleaned this off really nice. Okay, and if there's something sticky in there, I might take just a teeny little bit of and I always spray the window cleaner on my cloth. I don't spray it in the machine. I spray it on my cloth and just put a little bit in the area that the sticky spot is to get that off. Okay, but there is that little window. You can see the reflection on the glass there, and that really needs to be cleaned every now and then. I've gotten paper down in there. I've gotten vinyl stuck in it. And then I'm going to take this little door thing. This is the thing that comes out the back, and I'm just going to slide it back in there again, and it just clips right back in. Put this in there like that. Okay, so then you just close it up. So it makes it real easy to clean that area. So if you're having some weird problems with your scanning, or you have a weird line or something, open this up and clean it out. So that really helps a lot. Okay, so let's turn this back over again. This one's heavy. There we go. All right, so let's look at the CM. Okay, this is the older used one. And I haven't cleaned this one yet, so well, maybe there'll be something in this one like there was the blade. So I'm going to turn this one over also. These, you have to be a little careful of your screen because, you know, the screen kind of wants to pop around. So just I kind of hold my screen down so I can turn it over. Now this one actually is a little easier to get open. This one has a little thing. See if you can see it on the camera here. It has a little thing right here. This little thing right here. There's a little latch over here. Turn it over a little bit. So this little latch right here, I'm just going to push it in, and it just opens up like a little door, like that. So that one comes off really easy. So it's a little different than the other one. And let's see, this one looks actually pretty good. So, and again, you've got your little glass plate down in here. I'm going to take that little soft cloth, and I'm just going to go down in here and clean it out. And again, you might find some vinyl down in here or a piece of paper, and it shows up on the scans. That's where I so often notice that I have to clean this. Okay, all right, so clean it all off with my soft cloth, and then I can put this back in. So this has like a little knob on the side there that it kind of fits down in this little hinge, and then it sticks down like that. And that one is cleaned. So that is the scanner glass. So that's a real good one to clean also. The other thing that I like to do, and I don't have any water on this little cloth. Sometimes I'll use this cloth with a little water because that's all you use on those Norwex cloths. But the other thing you can do is keep your rollers clean. See these rollers right here? Sometimes they get kind of gunky. And so I take baby wipes, or I take this little Norwex cloth and put just a little bit of water on it, and then I'll clean my rollers. Okay, and then when the machine is off, very carefully you can kind of push this over just a little bit so you can expose the other one over here. If you can see it, this one right here. So keep these clean because they get kind of gunky after a while. Okay. And then keep the base of your machine clean. Like down here, like this one has some glue on it. And I often just use the baby wipes for this too. But then you won't have stuff stuck on here. That looks better. Gee, this one's going to be all cleaned up. That's why I brought it out. I thought, oh, we'll just clean this one up too. Kill two birds with one stone, as they say. And we can sell it. This is one of the 650s. Okay, so that one's nice and clean now. So I like to keep my rollers clean and this base part clean. Then we'll do the other one here because it's a little bit different. Okay, let me do this. And the only time you can just slightly move this is when it's off. Never try to do it when it's on because it'll damage the mechanism, but it's fine when it's off. I just moved it over just enough so I could get to this roller right here. Okay. And then I'm going to do this one. Let's look at this one and see how this one's doing. Okay, so we'll open this one up. This one has a different little door. And you know, this one, the rollers are pretty dirty on it. I can see a bunch of little stuff on my rollers. So I'm just going to clean those rollers off. Sometimes the mats don't work too well. Now see, this one is easier. If you can see it too well. This one is a little easier to access the roller without moving anything. So this one I can just get to the roller. Okay, and then clean the bed off. There's nothing sticky. Or anything. So I sometimes, you know, I use vinyls and I use all kinds of papers and different things, and things get stuck on here. So that looks good. Okay. So clean those off too. And what happens, they look kind of they get kind of white looking or kind of shiny looking, and then they don't want to grip the mat too well. So they just need to be cleaned. So keep your rollers clean. Okay. So there is kind of some cleaning on the machine itself and the rollers and the blades. So is this making sense to everybody? Does anybody else have other questions about this part of the cleaning? But I do try to keep my machine clean because they just work just like your sewing machine. Last week we did sewing machines. You know, the sewing machines work better also if they're clean. Okay. So there's the scanning cuts. Close up my baby wipes here. I keep them in a little box so they don't dry out. Okay, so let's talk about mats. So I would love to be able to sell everybody a brand new mat every single time that their mat isn't sticky. However, it's not always necessary. Okay, so what we just did with the baby wipe on the mat, look at this mat now. This mat's actually pretty clean. Okay, so let's take a look. I can always tell if it's going to be fairly good by getting my little cover sheet. And if the cover sheet sticks back on it again, I'll probably just use it as it is. Okay, so let's take a look. So I cleaned, remember this is the one that was real dirty, the first one we did. And look, see, look, it's not falling off now. See, before it wouldn't even stick on there, would it? Okay, so this mat's probably pretty good. And I don't like my mats super sticky because then the cardstock sometimes rips. So see, I can lift this up with my hands and it's stuck to the mat. So that's pretty clean. In fact, this one I'd probably maybe wipe it off one more time with the baby wipe. And I think this one may be fine. So let's just do that again. We'll just wipe it off one more time. We let it dry. But this tackies up the stickum that's on there because you cleaned the stuff out of the sticky surface. So this one I think actually might be fine just the way it is. I notice there's still some dark lines like right here. Well, see, there's still some stuff on there. Okay, so keep your mats clean and then they'll stay sticky. And I do, you know, when I start noticing them getting not very sticky and then looking kind of dirty, I just wipe them off. Okay, so I'm going to lay this one back over here and we're going to let it dry off again. Let's take a look at this one. Okay. Okay, now see this one? Not too good. This is a low-tack mat to begin with. And these don't stay sticky very long anyway. But you can see, my hand's not sticking to anything and it's not lifting the mat. I'm trying to make my hand stick on there. And let's try this little cover. I can usually tell if the cover sticks to it, you might be okay. So I don't know. I don't know if this well, see, it is sticking. It is sticking. It's better. It's much better than it was. But it's still not very sticky. Okay, and I'm not sure that my cardstock's going to stay on there very long. So after I get a new mat and I use it for a little while, then they kind of get to the point that, you know, I can clean them, but then they still just aren't quite sticky enough. So what I do is I restick my mats. And I've got a couple of mats that are really old. Probably one of the original mats I got with my original DX model machine. So I don't know, those came out maybe 4 or 5 years ago now. So I have one mat I know that's old. And I'll show you one other thing too that you can do if you happen to cut through your mat, which I did over here. So I'll show you. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're going to restick this mat. So I'm going to take this mat and I've got some painter's tape, some blue painter's tape. And I don't want any sticky stuff out here where my rollers are. So I'm going to take my blue painter's tape and I'm going to set it right up to the inside of that black line so that I'm covering up the ruler basically. Right up to this middle section of the mat. Okay. So put the tape around here. And all the way around. So we're going to make sure we get all the way around. We don't want any sticky down where the wheels are going to be. Okay, we'll turn this around. And this has worked real well for me. I've used this method on these for years. And like I said, I've got old mats. Now, after a while, doing this method, you get a little bit of buildup of glue. So then what I do is to get it like flattened out and like smoother again, I'll actually really scrub the mat with soap and water and like a little scrubby brush and scrub a lot of that stuff off the mat. And then I restick it again and it works great. So I've got some older mats. And so they don't, but especially these low tack ones, they don't stay very sticky for too long. So I clean them with the baby wipes a few times and then I have to usually restick them. Okay. So we got our tape all the way around. Okay. And now I'm going to use this great thing. I get these at Hobby Lobby. Michael's has them. Now they didn't used to, but this is a Zig Two-Way Glue Pen. And it's you want the one with the great big tip on it. This one's got like a 1-inch tip on it. And it's got glue. It's got repositionable glue in it. And so I'm going to take this pen, just kind of shook it up a little bit. You can hear the glue in it. And I'm just going to paint this mat. This is a very clean way to do this. And you can kind of see, I don't know if you'll be able to see very well on the camera, but it has kind of a blue tint to it. And I just kind of do about 2 swipes per inch. You know, these are 1-inch lines on this mat. I take, you know, about a 1/2-inch swatch and then another one. And with the tape on there, I don't have to worry that I get any glue over here on the sides where, you know, my wheels are going to touch. And I just take a swatch back and forth, about a 1/2 inch and then another 1/2 inch. And I can see the glue. It's just slightly blue, and you may not be able to see it very well. But I'm going to go all the way across this and all the way down to the bottom. See if I can pull back just a little bit so you can see better. So I'm just about down here to the bottom. Okay. So then I'm going to lay that, and I don't know if you can kind of see the shiny, it's wet glue. You can kind of see the shiny spots on it. So then I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to let this completely dry. You don't want to try using it now because it won't work. So we're going to let it completely dry, set it aside, and let it completely dry. Now this one here, actually, I think this one probably is still okay. I don't know that I need to restick this one. It's about there though, because it won't pick up on my hand anymore. So let's go ahead and restick this one too. It's about there. It's just kind of on the verge. So we'll restick these. But this is a good way to, you know, conserve your mats and be able to use them a little bit longer. You cannot do this, just so you know, with that new fabric mat. It does not work with the new fabric mat. This is for the standard or the low tack mats. This works really well for that. But that new fabric mat with that really super duper sticky thing on there, it does not work with that. So I just do these on my, like the mat that I use, like for my fabric, or not my fabric, but my my paper and my vinyls and stuff with. Okay, so I'm going to get that taped up. So I got that all taped up, and we'll do the same thing with this one. Get this one all ready to be. Now I'll have all these nice clean mats when I get done with this. Because I needed my mats were all kind of bad out on the floor for showing people, and my paper wasn't sticking very well. So now I've got them all clean and restuck. What a deal. Okay, we're going back and forth across here. And I go about a 1/2 inch or so, and then because the tip's about 1/2 to 3/4 inch, and it works really well. Just kind of go back and forth. Try not to get too get big goops of of glue in the same place. So I just kind of go across it back and forth, and it works really well. So like this one, I don't think has ever been restuck. I don't think either one of these have ever been restuck. So after you restick them a few times. Oh, yes, the felt. Okay, so Lynn and I have discovered something with felt. We've been cutting some felt. So those I have to scrub. If I get felt on my mat, I got to scrub it with soap and water, like dish soap. I use like Ivory Liquid and a little soft, not a real hard scrubber, but like one of those little net ones that people crochet. Those work really well for cleaning off that. Oh my gosh, that felt is, you just have to scrub it off. There's no other way. And then restick your mat. So that looks pretty good. You can kind of see the shine on that one too. Okay, what do you do when the new gold mats aren't sticky anymore? I use mine to cut fabric. Okay, so the gold mat, when it's not sticky anymore, I can't do much with those. I use them then for paper and vinyls. That's what I've been doing with mine. After it doesn't hold the fabric anymore. I use, there's two options. I use it and I use it for regular like paper and vinyl and stuff like that. Or I put one of those high tack adhesive sheets that we used to use on our low tack mats over the top because I can't get those sticky again. And I also can't get them, like you can clean them a little bit, but they don't seem to tacky up too well. So it must be the type of adhesive they use. Is a new fabric mat compatible with the original Scan and Cut? No, it is not, Joanne. It is only for the DX models. So you will need to use, I use my low tack mat with one of those high tack adhesive sheets, and I still use that with my new machine. That works with the new machine too. So I still do that. So these are both ready to be, I'm going to let them dry for a minute. So it takes a few minutes for them to dry. So I wanted to show you something else. So, okay, so, we've all done this, right? We've all cut through our mats. Okay, and it happens, right? So it doesn't happen as much now since we have the auto blade. I have to say the auto blade has saved a lot of my mats. I haven't cut through them as badly as I did with my older machine. Once I got the hang of setting my blade and everything, I remember the very first time I used the 550, the original machine, I cut through the mat the very first time, but it was because I didn't set. Remember, we just set this blade earlier. I didn't set this correctly, and now I know how to do it. So it's very important you remember that. Okay, so let me get these things off of here. Okay, so here's a mat. That also needs to be cleaned. You can see this doesn't stay on it. So I didn't get to this one today. I'll clean this one too. But this is a mat that we had a little problem with, and it got cut through. So you can do this, and it will work for a while. It won't work permanently, but you can see. Can you see that I have clear packing tape along the edge of this? Something happened and it got cut along the edge here, and I don't know what happened with it, but I just took some clear packing tape, okay, and I taped it down. And you want to use the clear kind because it needs to be thin, and I just, and I've done this in the middle of my, right in the middle of my mats, and I just tape them down with the clear packing tape, and it actually lets you use your mat for a while. You'll have like a little ridge sometime in here, but it does work. Now this one will work for a little longer, probably, but see the cut was up in here, which I haven't figured out what happened yet with this one, but it was up in here in this area, and so this is where it loads. So I have to watch this one. It may not work much longer because of it's cracked right where the loading is. And once they start to crack, after you tape them, they'll start to crack open, and then you really need to get rid of them, because then they'll catch on things, things will catch on them. And I don't use them once they start to crack, because they do after a while. But this one I can still use for a little bit anyway. So this is another option. If you need to repair a mat, you can do this at least temporarily until you can get to a new one. Or and like I said, I have been using this mat. It still loads okay, but I have to be very careful when I load it because it's got that corner on it. Okay. All right. So there's another little repair thing you can do with your mat. Let's see here. I think this is the first one we did. Let's see how this is doing. Okay, you can tell. Woo, look at there. Nice and sticky now. Look at that. So it's sticky if you can pick it up with your fingers, and it's nice and dry. It doesn't take too long. It takes maybe 5-10 minutes to dry. And I'm going to go ahead and remove this tape now. And this is the first one we did. It's maybe just a little wet on the edges yet, so I'll probably just leave it. I won't put my hand on it anymore, but this one's really nice and sticky now. So I just take my tape off after I'm all done sticking them. Let them dry real well before you try to use it though. What do you use when, okay, so, oh, okay, I did get Denise's question answered. Okay. All right, so there's the first one. And then I'm going to let this one dry a little bit more before I take the tape off. But this one is also ready to go. And this is a low tack mat. So it's going to be stickier maybe than it was maybe originally. But I do my low tack mats and my standard mats, and then I use them interchangeably pretty much at this stage of their life. Now, see, these mats are both in really good shape, though. They're a little dirty on the back. So I'll do the same thing here once it dries. I might turn this over and take my baby wipe and just give it a little scrub back here, so that sometimes if it's dirty back here, it'll cause a problem with the loading. So I'll clean these up on a little bit on the back too. Let's take a look at this one. See if this one's not too bad. Okay, so this one's probably okay, but this one needs to be cleaned a little bit on the back because then it'll load better. Okay, so there are some things about cleaning your scan and cut, because I use mine quite a bit, so I have to clean my mats and stick them quite often. And it's easy. It's something you can do to keep your, make your mats last longer and make your machine work better, keep it clean, and just like your sewing machines. So I thought this was a good time to do that. We'll do a little bit of maintenance for July, and then we might do something maybe, I think in maybe Christmas in July next week. So what do you use the low tack mat for? Okay, so honestly, Margaret, what I normally have used my low tack mat for, which it's not very sticky, I almost always have put those high tack adhesive sheets on here and then cut my fabric on it. Okay. So at this point, since I've restuck this one, it's actually more like a standard mat. So I would just use these two interchangeably at this point. Okay. I still have a mat at home that's a low tack mat, and I used to always teach the classes, and I told everybody to write fabric down here and put one of those real sticky sheets on it. And I still use those sticky sheets because I have a bunch of them at home and I still use them. They work just fine, but you just have to replace them every now and then. Okay. So that at this point, since I've restuck this one's actually more like a standard mat. So I can use either one of these to cut basically anything, paper, vinyl, anything. I probably wouldn't cut fabric on them because they're not sticky enough, but okay. And you usually get like right now with the DX models, you're getting a standard mat and a fabric mat with those. And then we used to always get a low tack and a standard mat. So they kind of changed the mat. So you're getting the new fabric mat with the newer machines. On the new fabric mat for the newer machine, do you still need heat and bond? Yes, you do, Joanne, because you need to stabilize your fabric. The fabric needs to still be stable. If you are wanting to cut without a bonding agent, like if you're not doing applique, what I use is Terrial Magic. It's a very, very stiff starch, and that works okay. And then you can just put the fabric on the mat, but you need to stabilize the fabric because the fabric will just kind of mush around the mat if you don't have it either stabilized with heat and bond or with Terrial Magic. Okay. Now with the new rotary blade, I still starch it, but the new rotary blade that I showed on Sew Along with Jan a couple of weeks ago, that rolls over the surface like a rotary cutter does. And that doesn't, move your fabric around so much like the regular blades do. Okay. So, I still use, even with that, I still would use Terrial Magic if I don't want any like heat and bond on the back of my fabric. I usually use heat and bond, when I'm doing applique. So, okay. And Lynn says she tries to cut paper on the low tack first. Yes. So the low tack mat, when they're new, are not as tacky as the standard mats. So like the paper works better on the low tack mat, at least for a while, but then it very quickly gets not even tacky enough for like cardstock. So then what I do, I usually like to use my standard mat for my cardstock. And when I first get a brand new one, it's too sticky. So I take the mat and I lay it down, like I lay it on my clothing or on my, like my pant leg, or sometimes even on the carpet, and get some lint on it. And then I'll wipe it off with a baby wipe and just get a little bit of the sticky off, because it's so sticky that cardstock will stick too much to it. But like I said, with these two, since I've just restuck them with the Zig pen, and this, when you go to get these at Hobby Lobby, the package is yellow and white, and it says EK Tools, I believe, on it. And then this is in the package, and on the barrel it says Two-Way Glue Pen. It's Zig Two-Way Glue Pen, but the package is like white and yellow, and I think it says EK Tools on it. And it's usually with the scrapbooking glues, so if you're looking for them. I normally get mine Hobby Lobby. That's where I've always been able to get them. Okay. So, but at this point, since I've restuck both of these, they're more like a standard mat. Even my low-tack mat, since it's restuck now, because this is going to be a little stickier maybe than it was originally. So it's still not quite dry. So I'm going to let it dry a little bit more. Okay. All right. So I don't know where Tim went. Is Tim going to come back? Where are you, Tim? Maybe he's watching me in his office. I don't know. So maybe he'll come back and talk to you for a couple minutes before we end. Are there any other questions about the mats? So we've cleaned our mats, we've cleaned our blade, we cleaned the machine and the scanning glass. We've got, oh, here he comes. So we've done the resticking of the mats. So I think we're maintained.
Great.
Okay. So let me switch you back over to this other camera here. And the microphone. There we go. All right.
All right. Well, again, thank you for joining us for another Shields Live. Again, to reiterate, we do have our floor model sale going on, Christmas, July, 30% off all in-stock accessories. So get in so that we can place a new order next week. But enjoy the day. It is a little warm out there, and
good day for cutting things on your
good day to stay inside for sure. But yeah, thanks again. I always appreciate the likes, the comments, the shares. That always helps us out a little bit. But keep on keeping on, and we'll see you next week. Have a great week, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.